Hooray, hooray, your connection is now live. That's good. Hope you're all having a great morning. I am Jonathan Little. For those who don't know me, professional poker player, author, commentator, coach, all of that. I do my best to help other people achieve their dreams, whatever that means for them. It's important to realize we all have different dreams and different aspirations, and it's not one size fits all. So make sure if you're trying to help people, it's not one size fits all. Someone came to me just yesterday. They tried to hire a poker coach, and the poker coach basically just gave them a manual to read and said, "Here, read this, and I'll charge you a bunch of dollars per hour to go through this manual with you." Clearly, that doesn't work so well because where do you start in the manual, right? Well, it depends on what level you're at, right? If you go and try to teach me about equity and want to charge me many hundreds of dollars an hour, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because I already know all that, right? But if you try to teach a total novice that, they're going to be like, "I don't even know what a deck of cards is." So it's very important to realize we're all trying to learn different things. Today, we have a good topic. We're going to be discussing how to stop min cashing and start winning poker tournaments. It's a very important topic because a lot of you let me know I min cash a lot but don't win, and that's a big problem. Before we get started, we are in the process of the Poker Coaching 30-Day Challenge. This is our first 30-day challenge. We have over 650 of you involved in that now, so congrats on that. If you want to get involved, go to pokercoaching.com/30-day challenge, 30DAYCHALLENGE. And, in that process, you'll learn how to play good, fundamentally sound poker by the end of the month, and you will be way better than the vast majority of people you encounter. And not only that, you will have developed the habit of getting in there and working hard and studying. Every day the kids come in here and mess up my office. And I have to rearrange it. Okay. You're loving the 30-day challenge, says Greg. Awesome, I'm glad to hear it. That is the goal. I want to get you in there and doing it. You suggest building up a stack aggressively early or busting and not waste your time and miss the bubble anyway. Well, definitely don't think like that. Look, first things first, you have to ask, why are you playing poker? Right? Why are we playing poker? And for many people, they are playing poker with the idea that they want to try to make as much money possible, but that is not necessarily true for everyone. A lot of people are playing because they want to make insane, sick plays, or they want to run big bluffs, or they want to win, right? All that's very important. I mean, think about Jonathan Little personally, right? At this point in my career, I don't really care if I get a min cash, but at the same time, I have this thing running in my brain, maximize expectation, like a robot. In reality, winning a tournament is way more beneficial for my business than me taking third place, right? Because nobody remembers third place, everybody remembers the winner. And it's kind of neat to think that people have different incentives. And in the past, my goal was 100% purely to just win as much money as possible. But even now, sometimes that changes. That said, I still maximize equity. I mean, I had to just the other day in the $1,000 tournament in Nottingham at Party Poker UK, they added 20 main event seats to the prize pool. So what ended up happening was 21st place was $6,000, and 20th place was $6,500 plus a 10,000 seat. So it's a $10,000 payout jump there. And I mean, winning the 10K is nice. It's not going to devastate me if I don't. But at the same time, I recognize if I have a middle stack here, I need to blind out and get that seat. So you know what I did? I had a middle stack and I blinded out and I got that seat. And that makes it harder for me to actually win the tournament, right? Because I'm going to collect that seat basically every time, but in exchange for that, I win the tournament some percentage less. And what a lot of people do is they find small payout bubbles and they really make sure they collect that. And what inevitably happens is if you make a point to collect all these small payout jumps, you just never win the tournament. So first things first, realize that a min cash is nice, but the vast majority of the prize pool in any tournament goes to the first few places, right? That's just how it is, right? And so realize you don't actually have to take first, second, or third all that often in order to make up for many min cashes. Now, that's not to say you should not collect the min cashes, and there are plenty of times where you should actively collect the min cash, because if you think about it, in a lot of tournaments, bubbling is $0, but min cashing is 1.5 buy-ins or 2 buy-ins. But then if you outlast like another 10% of the remaining field, the next payout jump is like 1.8 buy-ins. So it's like kind of irrelevant, right? So getting in the money is relevant. But at the same time, it's important to recognize that the payout jump from, fourth to third is usually gigantic, and from third to second is gigantic, etc., etc. So it's very, very important to recognize that min cashing is nice, but at the same time, you need to get a hold of a lot of chips. Okay? So whenever you look at the cash percentage of a lot of the best players in the world, take a second, think about this. How often do you think the best players in the world, the biggest winners online, cash? I have a big data set of this, and I know the answer. Take a second, think about it. You can give a range. Can we add a search feature to pokercoaching.com? This is always good topics. Classes, webinar for everything. Good. Okay. The answer is, wow, Olympus Poker nailed it. Between 15 and 20%. And I'm assuming that these are tournaments where 15% of the field gets paid, right? Which is kind of standard across the board now. In tournaments where between 15 and 20, whenever about 15% of the field gets paid, the biggest winners in the game cash between 15 and 20% of the time. A lot of people, I see people typing 30%, like a lot. And the answer is no. They actually don't. However, they win the tournament way more often than they should. So say there's 1,000 people, they may win it 2.5 times out of 1,000, whereas the average person wins it 1 time out of 1,000 or less, right? And so a lot of people think that you're supposed to be cashing a lot. But what inevitably happens is it's just not actually true, right? And like I know that I cash right around 18-ish% of the time. I've had some good results in some specific venues like World Poker Tour events. I cash like 40% of the time somehow, not on purpose. I'm not trying, but I also win them a lot, right? That's just variance from a small sample set, right? But you're going to find that across the board, the big winners are cashing between about 15 and 20% of the time. Some people cash a little bit more, some people cash a little bit less. But it's in that ballpark. And if you find that you are cashing, let's say 30% of the time, it may not actually be a good thing if you also recognize you're not winning the tournament all that often. So, for example, say in your tournaments, a min cash gives you 2 buy-ins back, let's just pretend. And you only min cash and you never win, but you min cash 40% of the time. Huge, right? Well, that means you're getting back 8 buy-ins every time you play 10 tournaments. Do a little bit of math here. You're losing 2 buy-ins every 10 tournaments, which is awful. It's terrible. And, while the biggest losers in the game are often like the most spewy, absurd players, the hidden losers of the game are the players who are just a little bit too tight, who min cash a little bit too often, who sneak into the money but never win. And this is often what happens to a lot of satellite players because they are very accustomed to sneaking into the money, right? And it's important to recognize that those games are different. Every once in a while I'll get crap for saying that satellite players are not as good as regular tournament players. But it's true. They just don't min cash all that. They min cash far more often than they should, but they very rarely win the tournaments. And that's a problem, right? And that makes it to where whatever they cash for in the satellite, the buy-in is worth effectively less because our ROI is effectively lower, right? You have a live satellite tomorrow for a really big tournament for you. Any tips for the satellite tournament? Play great. There's a chapter by Bernard Lee in Excelling at No Limit Hold'em. Read that. That'll tell you how many chips you need to get in the money, etc., and give you general advice. Really, though, get in the money, because that's all that matters. So, in a regular tournament, though, it's very, very, very important to recognize that the goal is not to get a min cash. The goal is not to make day 2. The goal is not to get a bag. Oh my God. It's like a trigger for me whenever I see someone on the internet bragging about getting a bag, which means making day 2 of a 5-day tournament. Like, it just doesn't matter. It's completely irrelevant. And again, these people think they're playing to win money, but they're not. They're playing to try to get achievements. And they think an achievement is making day 2 out of a 5-day tournament. And, maybe for them it is, but it doesn't matter. Making day 2 is completely irrelevant. Min cashing. It's not completely irrelevant, but it's pretty close to irrelevant. Whenever you are playing a tournament, good way to tell who cares about the money. Whenever you get a min cash, if people are like celebrating and clapping, yay, we got the min cash, you can tell those players care far too much about the money and also are not playing to win. They are playing to essentially try to not lose, which inevitably leads to them never or rarely winning the tournament. Where's the balance between cashing and protecting your tournament life, etc., etc.? Well, that's what we're about to talk about, right? Because I'm not saying you just need to be absurd. I'm saying that you need to play smart. You need to play well, right? So, now that we know good players are not cashing a whole lot more than most regular humans, it's very important to realize, like, what are they doing to make sure they always have a reasonable chip stack? Because what a lot of people do wrong is they just sit there and they play good cards, and inevitably, the good cards lose. If you blind out, get it all in with the best hand, win the pot, you continue moving forward, right? Blind out, win the hand. But if you blind out, get it in good and lose, you're just out. And that's what happens to a lot of people. Someone messaged me a while back, like bragging about how good they were at playing the short stack, and then I was reviewing their hands, and it was just like blind out, get all in with queens and beat ace 4. And this guy's like, yeah, I got it in good, I beat the ace 4. But he didn't realize he blinded out half his stack. So he blinded out half his stack, then got it in to get back to even where he was, and he lost, 30% of the time he's out of the tournament. And it's like he didn't realize that he was just essentially shooting himself in the foot, right? And that's a big problem. You'll find that a lot of the best players very often aren't sitting there knitting it up. They are usually above average in chips. I'm not saying the average actually matters, but you're generally above average in chips. You have a decent stack to make a run. I mean, and then what happens is whenever things go poorly, which they will go poorly at some point, that's when you kind of like hang out, get a double up, and move forward, right? But the goal is to always like be in a decent chip stack so that you can be in there winning pots, pushing people around, and winning chips that don't belong to you, essentially. Let's see. Mark says, getting a bag feels... If you never found a bag, then making day 2 feels like you've accomplished something. You get to play more poker tomorrow without playing any money. Well, again, or without paying any money. Again, like that goes back to the idea of they're not playing to win money. They're playing to get to play more poker, right? Okay. So, first things first, just play more pots. You need to be in there. You need to be 3-betting more. You need to be continuation betting more. I had a private coaching session yesterday, and the student had a spot where, like, early position raised, folds around to him in the big blind with, like, 30 big blinds with ace-king. And that's a spot where I'm just all in virtually every time, unless the initial raise is a super nit. And this student decided to just call, like, check call flop, check folded turn when he missed, which is fine. Fine way to play post-flop. But the question is, should you just rip it in pre-flop? And he was like, yeah, I don't really want to be jamming for the 31 big blinds, but he didn't recognize that we're playing with a big blind ante, and essentially you're playing something like 20 big blinds effective, right? If you take 2/3 of the ante and put it into the big blind, you're playing like 1.6 big blinds for the actual big blind, 1.67 big blinds, which means a 30 big blind stack is only about 20 effective big blinds, and whenever someone raises to 2.5 big blinds, you're in. Just rip it in there. There's another spot on the bubble where 22 people were left, 20 got paid. One guy had 2 big blinds and put in 2 big blinds. A big stack made it 8 big blinds. Folds around to our hero with like 35 big blinds with ace-queen. Pretty close to the bubble, right? And the question is, do you call or jam or fold? And I think the answer is easily all in. Easily. Yet, our guy called, missed the flop, and then folded, right? Turns out the big stack just had some marginal stuff like ace-5 offsuit or something like that, and ended up winning the pot with nothing. And it's important to recognize that those are spots, like even on the bubble, where, yeah, you're risking going broke whenever you do rip it all in there with the ace-queen. And sometimes you will go broke. Sometimes you will bubble. But it's just highly profitable to jam there. And also, maybe you'll make the big stack slow down a little bit, which will allow you to continue to act like the big stack on the bubble and win chips. Right? When you are the big stack, you want to be opening a lot. In Nottingham, actually, I had a very bad seat in that $10,000 bubble scenario we were talking about earlier, where I had the big stack on my direct left. So every time I opened, he would just 3-bet me. And he should. So I jammed a time or two, but like still, you don't really want to be jamming at a time or two. You'd rather just collect your free min cash. And he made that impossible. And the fact that he made that impossible was what he's supposed to be doing, right? Let's see. Apparently a lot of you are having questions about this big blind ante calculation. Look, I come from the old school day of poker where there were no antes at all. And when they introduce antes, the way you can effectively think about it, if you know your push-fold charts and GTO opening ranges without antes like the back of your hand, what you do is you convert the big blind with an ante to a big blind without an ante. Think about the pot with no ante, right? Big blind makes up 2/3 of the pot, small blind makes up 1/3 of the pot, right? So, to figure out the effective big blind, take 2/3 of the rest of the pot, pre-flop, which would be 2/3 of the ante, 0.67 big blinds, put that in the big blind, take the other 1/3, put it in the small blind. So you're really playing like 0.83 small blind and 1.6 or 1.7 big blind, which means if you have 30 big blinds, you're really only playing effectively 20 big blinds deep, right? That's an easy way to roughly figure out stacked depth and whatnot, which is why you see a lot of the best players in the world online. If someone raises it 2 big blinds, they're just ripping in 30 big blinds all day with a lot of hands. And you may say, oh, wow, that's a big shove. But no, not really, because there's an ante in play, all right? A lot of people think the big blind ante changes things, but it doesn't. It's the same game it's always been. And again, people use all sorts of different things. Some people use M. I really dislike the M ratio because the M ratio tells you how long you can blind out before going broke. Excuse us. We are not trying to blind out. Definitely not trying to blind out. If your idea is, oh, I'm going to sit here and blind out and knit it up, I want to make sure my M is more than 5 so I can blind out for 5 orbits. Like, we're not trying to blind out. Get real, everyone. Come on. That's exactly how you don't win the poker tournament. And you all are referencing a book. This book is a great way to get a lot of min cashes but not win. It's actually why I wrote my first poker book, Secrets to Professional Tournament Poker Volume 1, about 10 years ago. I wrote it because there was a very popular book out there that taught people to be very weak and tight. Maybe you call it tight and aggressive. It was weak and tight. And that's a really good way to not win poker tournaments. It's a really good way to get min cashes and feel good about yourself because you get to get a little bit of money and put it in your pocket. But I can tell you all, you feel way better when you win a whole load of money. Did I ever play with a young kid that knocked me around a few times in Nottingham? So one of my friends, Anatoly Filatov, everyone thinks I'm like battling or something with him. Anatoly Filatov is a very world-class poker player, and we played a few times. He's gotten the best of me. We played in the Global Poker League. He beat me heads up 2-1. He busted me in another Party Poker Live tournament. Actually, I think he doubled me up. He had the nuts. He plays like every pot, right? So whenever you're against someone who plays every pot and they make the nuts, they just get paid. So he busted me in, or I doubled him up for a big pot in the Bahamas. He busted me 2 times in the main event. Both times he had me pipped with a pair. I think I had jacks and he had queens once, and then the other time I was shallower with like 20 big blinds. I had 9s, he had 10s. But then I got a little bit of vindication. Late in an online tournament, one of them that I took, what did I take? I think I took second place in it online, a $1,000 tournament. I busted him deep in it. So he's busted me a few times, I busted him once. Seems fair, right? So that's a lot of fun. But no, Anatoly's my friend, he's nice. That young kid, I think he's like 28 or 29 or 30. Okay, so things you can do to stop min cashing. Get in there and play more pots, right? Again, the idea of just sit there and knit it up does not make sense. Going back to that book you all are referencing. Sorry, I don't like this. Maybe I should say it. Whatever. Anyway, that book was advocating a squeeze play where it's like, yeah, I went raise call. I squeezed for half my stack was a 6-3 because I thought it would work. That kind of play is also asinine. If you're going to be making absurd bluffs, you better have a blocker. You don't do it with a 6-3. Those are reverse blockers. When you have the 6-3, it makes it more likely your opponents have the nuts. Not less likely. So that's a giant error. I mean, the nice thing about ace-king, that ace-king hand where under the gun, early position raise, and we have ace-king with 30 big blinds in the big blind. Whenever you jam ace-king there, what ends up happening is your opponent's going to call with 6 combinations of hands, 3 aces, 3 kings, where you're in bad shape. Against everything else, you're in fine shape. And if you do the math, the opponent's probably opening about 100 combinations of hands from early position, roughly, which means only about 5% of the time, 1 in 20, you're in bad shape. And then something like 70% of the time, you just win the pot immediately. And then 25% of the time, you're all in, flipping, or slightly ahead. And that's just a great spot. So this player was saying that I want to call here so that I don't go broke. Is that worth it? And the answer is just no. Like, you have to be willing to risk going broke because you just print so much equity by jamming in those spots. So I bet a lot of the people out there who are min cashing too much are just doing too much calling with a medium stack and not enough 3-betting, not enough playing aggressively. So you was supposed to bag at Borgata. Who cares about bagging, Grace? Come on. You ran into the situation. You're under the gun with ace-king with 50 big blinds, open 2.5x, low jack calls, hijack shoves. So you shove. Yeah, good, easy shove. No problem, right? Easy shove. Notice, okay, low jack had queens, hijack had 10-8 of hearts. Sure. What's wrong with that? You got it all in a scenario where the 10-8 of hearts is drawing effectively dead for the pot, or at least rather dead for the pot, and you and low jack get to have a big flip. What's wrong with that? That's a good example of this scenario where you lose in this scenario half-ish of the time, maybe a little bit more, but you're getting odds in the pot, and whenever you make the best hand, you have a load of chips. And then you win the tournament sometimes, right? So either you sneak into the money, or presuming you're near the money, you sneak into the money with your 20 big blind remaining stack when it fails, but when it succeeds, you have 100 big blinds, and you're off to the races, right? What's the highest tournament rake percentage that is beatable? Danny asked. Danny, think for a second. Why is that not a good question? Take a second and think about it. One tip you've taken on board is defending your blinds wider against a button raise. It's been very profitable. Yeah, facing a min raise, you need to be defending your big blind very often from against a late position raiser because they're raising kind of wide. And as long as they're not just bonkers, you're going to be able to check call the flop with your marginal stuff, then see the showdown a lot of the time. Soup, I don't know what an in my mind is. I don't know what this is. I don't know what a laid back Luke is. I don't know how to DJing. And I don't know what you're referring to at all. Sorry. I'm not in the know when it comes to laid back Luke. All right. What books do you recommend to get started? Secrets to Professional Tournament Poker. No. Strategies for beating small stakes poker, cash games, and tournaments. It's a little book. This is if you're getting started. This is not if you're already good. This is if you're getting started. Strategies for beating small stakes poker tournaments and cash games. The reason that question about rake was bad, what's the highest percent rake tournament that is beatable, is because it depends entirely on your opponents. What if your opponents blind out every hand because they're bad? They never play a pot. Well, you can beat 99% rake, right? Because you just win the tournament every time, right? What if your opponents are the best players in the world? Well, then you can't beat any rake, right? Because you're always going to be a loser. So the question is not good. It's really a question more of what caliber of opponents can I play against with X% rake to make it profitable to play. And really, it's more a function of what is your ROI without rake, then subtract the rake and see if you're still a winner, right? And also, it depends on your skill level a ton. If you're bad, no, you can't beat any rake. If you're the best player in the world, you can probably beat 20% rake or 30% rake. Okay. Talking about poker out loud videos that solve for why do. I don't know what that means either. Sorry, everyone. Believe it or not, I'm busy helping all of you better your poker skills. I don't have time to watch Laid Back Luke. Jeff Gross, good morning. We did a great podcast with Jeff Gross the other day. Make sure you check that out. You can find it on YouTube, all the podcast apps. Just search Jeff Gross Podcast. It was fantastic. All right, so do we recommend playing more pots early to try to make sure we get a decent stack late in the tournament? Today's topic, for those who are late, is how to stop min cashing and start winning tournaments. And I don't think you need to do anything absurd in the early levels. I think where most people are making errors, making big errors, is situations where in the middle and late stages they just tighten up too much. Because let's say there's 30% of the field left, they think, all right, I only need to get in the top 15% of the field to get some money back, so I'm just going to be tight and try to get there. But really, half the players in the tournament still have to go broke, right? 30% divided by 15%, or 15 divided by 30 is 50%, which means half of the people have to bust. And the idea of sitting there and just playing kind of tight and collecting that free min cash is not a great idea, especially in slow structured tournaments, right? Like just the other day, we played the $1,000 tournament in Nottingham, and it took 4 days. It was a 4-day $1,000 buy-in tournament. It's absurd. And you can't just sit there and knit it up, right? That said, in the early levels, I do think a lot of people make a few big mistakes. First is that they play too tightly. They're not like calling in position with suited connectors and small pairs. I had someone come to me a long time ago, and they said, I'm just going to fold my pairs against a raise because I'm probably behind. I'm like, yeah, you're probably behind, but when you make a set, you just crush them, right? And that's important. So what I do in the early stages of the tournaments is I play a pretty decent amount of pots with suited connected hands, pairs, suited aces, sometimes suited kings, and we try to make a good hand. And if you can beat aces against a lot of people, they're just going to go off for 100 big blinds or more. Sometimes all of their chips. I remember this tournament I played at Borgata a while back where I was just like splashing around pre-flop, and I think I had like 9-5 suited and became like Jack 5-5, and my opponent just like put it all in. Like I think they bet the flop, I raised, they just jammed for like 300 big blinds. And I had 9-5 there. I'm like, oh my god, am I against the ace-5 or the pocket jacks? Like why would they ever jam with jacks? Why would they jam with the ace-5? So anyway, I called and they just had aces. They're like, oh my god, I can't believe you had a 5. How would you call a 5, a pre-flop raise with a 5 in your hand? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, because you're going to stack off for 300 big blinds. So that's very, very important. Can you recommend a book for return on investment and risk of ruin? Read jonathanlittlepoker.com/bankroll and then just consult Google for that kind of thing. How should you pay your taxes? Consult a tax professional. I use Teresa Fox. She is amazing, Fox & Associates, and I have never had problems. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. Knock on wood. Please don't give me problems now. That said, I pay my taxes, so don't try to cheat the tax man. That is a big, big mistake. I have on my notes here. Don't be an idiot. Yeah, don't be an idiot with your taxes. It applies to both. So, early in the tournament, play more pots. Try to make hands that beat aces, and then go from there. Okay. And then, later in the tournament, I think you need to be doing a little bit more 3-betting, a little bit more aggressive play, especially in late position against loose openers who are going to get out of the way a lot of the time. And especially if you have a tight image, right? If you are middle-aged or older, it looks like you're just going to be a nice, chill person who's not going to get out of line. Those are the best times to really get out of line and crush your opponents. So, be willing to do that. I think that's very, very important that you get out of line and you actively make a point to crush them. Do you recommend registering later in online tournaments or during the first few levels? In soft tournaments, register early, and tough tournaments, register late. We want to see you play with Garrett and Andy at Live at the Bike. I've played a lot with Garrett in the past. We used to battle pretty hard, but he's in California and I'm in New York. Say hi to you, you're high maintenance. No, I'm not a big fan of giving attention to people who are high maintenance. Let's see. You open ace king under the gun, 90 big blinds deep. You get 3-bet from the big blind, you 4-bet all in, he calls, etc., etc. It depends on the stacks. So 90 big blinds deep. If you raise, someone 3-bets you should probably 4-bet small and then call it off. As opposed to just ripping it in. Because when you just rip it in, you no longer induce bluffs, right? You just force them to call with only good hands. Whereas when you re-raise small, maybe they'll call sometimes with hands that you dominate, and also maybe they'll rip it in with like ace-5 suited, whereas if you jam, they're never going to get it in with ace-5 suited, right? Let's see. Dobb says, you're playing tonight, you're 41, is that middle-aged? You'll make sure you take a walking stick. Yeah, good idea. Take a walking stick and wear, bifocals and all that. Ace-king suited pre-flop. Don't know what you're saying. If you have ace-king of spades on 7-7-2 with 2 spades, you should probably be okay getting it in. And the reason is because in that scenario, you always have the nut flush draw, right? Which is great. You're not so worried about being against a boat. And then also, ace and king are sometimes good against overpairs. So you're like 50-50 against overpairs, and then against everything else, you're good to go. Is it counterintuitive to do a program like Raise Your Edge and poker coaching at the same time, since both offer different points of view. I don't actually think they're all that different in terms of the content. Raise Your Edge tries to be very, very high level in a way that I personally don't think is very implementable. My goal is to teach you all how to actually play good poker at the table as opposed to away from the table. I realize you all are not playing online poker with a giant monitor dedicated to running software at the same time to tell you what to do in every spot. I recognize that's not where you all are. So we're all teaching based on GTO principles, like all the homework challenges recently, right? We're doing a poker coaching homework challenge today, actually, at 2 p.m., so make sure you sign up for that. It's completely free for the poker coaching members. And we go through what the solver says, but at the same time, I realize you're not a solver. You're not going to know to check a hand 8% of the time, right? I just realized we're not thinking like at that level because we're not super genius computers. So we're teaching roughly how to play GTO and how to adjust from it, as opposed to trying to teach perfect GTO in a way that doesn't give you a great structure for knowing how to actually implement it. So anyway, they're similar, but is there a benefit to going through one or the other? I would probably tell you to find one and stick to it. Whether it's them or me, I don't care. I want you all to get better at life, right? And to be fair, if you already are a world-class poker player, if you're already crushing the games and you want to get a little bit better, I think Raise Your Edge is a great place to go to. So there you go. If you are not already a world-class player, though, might send you my way. Also, $1,500 is expensive. I don't know what they're charging now. I know whenever I signed up it was $1,500. $1,500 is expensive for a one-time purchase. I realize a lot of you don't have a gigantic bankroll. Again, I'm not trying to teach the absolute best players in the world, right? Because they're already world-class. I'm trying to teach people who I can actually help a significant amount. All right, let's see. $1,000 tournament. Hero opens under the gun with, I guess this is, what is this? I can't even tell. It's an ace and a queen. Villain in the big blind makes it 10,500. What do we do? Either jam or call, clearly. And right here, this is a good example of where it doesn't really matter a whole lot because your hand's pretty good. Given a lot of people only 3-bet the big blind with good hands, I'd probably be more inclined to flat. But jamming's fine too. He's done some weird stuff before. As he's done more weird stuff, I'd be more inclined to just jam. Right? Any updates on the poker coaching app? With any luck, we'll be releasing it by the end of the month. It is not as nearly as done as I would like it to be. Currently, it's just going to play quizzes. But we have lots and lots of plans for the future. Believe it or not, it's a pain in the butt to get an app done. And I can't do it myself. I don't know how to program an app. Where can I learn bet size strategies? PokerCoaching.com. 5-5 game, 17 big blinds with ace queen suited. Big stack person was raising. Or you're at a final table. You used 5 of 5 on a final table. I see. If big stack raises, you're just all in every time. If they raise, you're all in. Period. You're all in. How to maximally utilize a HUD? I would actually tell you to not worry about this so much, given most sites are getting rid of HUDs, and I think that's just going to be continuing to be the trend. That said, I don't use any sort of super in-depth HUD. I am using more of a relatively basic one. I think it has, 15 stats or something, and I make sure they don't actually compile until we have a sample of 10 or more. So, turn check raise percentage never compiles against most people, right? So I would tell you really just to not worry about it so much. And I'm sure you can find the basics of heads-up display use on just YouTube. Just search that. So in your honest answer, what should you read is something you haven't written. Wait. If your answer to what book should I read is something I haven't written, does that give you an idea for a book I should write next? No, because I don't think most topics justify a book. For example, the Bankroll Bible, right? PokerCoaching.com/bankroll. Go there, read that, and you'll realize it's 20 pages long or 30 pages long. And I could probably build that out into what? I could probably just give plenty of examples and make it a 150-page book. But is that necessary? Do I need to do that? Are there better things I can do in my time? And right now the answer is yes, there's better things I can do in my time. Believe it or not, I don't actually actively try to find book projects. They find me. For example, we had Modern Poker Theory with Michael Acevedo. That took a lot of my time recently. We released that at the World Series of Poker. So that was 6 months ago. I just finished my final draft of Excelling at Tough No Limit Hold'em games. That'll be out at the World Series next year. I just finished going through Jay Nandez's book on Pot Limit Omaha. These projects, they just find me. I didn't necessarily sign up to do a lot of work on Acevedo's. I didn't necessarily sign up to do a lot of work on Jay Nandez. But hey, that's my job. I work with D&B Poker, and I'm happy to do it. But notice, going through all these does not leave a whole lot of time for my own work. That's actually something I struggle with currently, is the maintenance of other projects makes it difficult for me to have time to really sit down and do my own projects. But to be fair, like the excelling book took forever. And I mean, it probably took like 300 hours or 500 hours or something. I say that's forever. It's not actually forever. But it's a long time. And that kind of thing makes it difficult to have any time for anything else. Next project on my plate, though, is Tournament Masterclass. I have it all outlined out. It's just a matter of making the PowerPoints, making the quizzes, making the challenges, and getting to it. Something a lot of sites do wrong, myself included to some extent, is they don't really test you in a very clear way. Like, we have a lot of tests and challenges on poker coaching because I realize that's how a lot of people learn. But at the same time, it's not organized the best it could possibly be. So we're currently going through the Cash Game Masterclass and adding a lot of quizzes and also like live play example from me. And we're just going to naturally build that out in the Tournament Masterclass. So it's exciting. It's exciting to me. When am I going to Borgata? I don't know. I'm going Friday. Not this Friday, next Friday. I'm only going for 2 days. So I'm not going to be there long. What big blind do you switch to shove or fold? About 8. Just follow the GTO charts. They're at pokercoaching.com. Queen 9 suited under the gun. Table is very passive. You limp. Don't limp. Raise. Raise or fold. Under gun +1 raises 75 cents. 2 other people flat. You flat. Flop comes Queen XX all diamonds. All right. You're in. Good job. Check raise flop. Put all your money in. How often does a donk bet bluff on a paired board work? I don't know. Look at your database and you'll see. How to deal with a big stack bully on your left? Play tight. And if they're going to 3-bet you a lot, 4-bet them all in. Am I going to Arizona? I am not. How do you adjust to anti-games? You realize that you need to play a little bit looser across the board, especially from the big blind. We actually have implementable GTO charts for games with and without antes at pokercoaching.com, so check that out. Let's see. You just finished reading my book, Beating Small Stakes Cash Games. I don't have a book, Beating Small Stakes Cash Games. I have strategies for beating small stakes poker cash games. That's probably what you're referring to. The next book I would tell you to get. This is actually a book I would recommend for everyone who's really serious about poker. Mastering Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em. It's a big book. This is a little book. This is like an introduction book. This is a big book. Big book on range analysis. That's what I should have titled it. Big book on range analysis, but no one would buy that. Mastering Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em is where you need to be. All right. Well, you all are getting me off the topic. I'm teaching people just like you to crush the games. Well, that's the goal. Who won the raffle? Oh, where did my paper go? Eric Lowe won 1% of my action at the Party Poker UK. Got $165 for my $16,500 cash, and also got 1 year poker coaching premium. So congrats to Eric Lowe. I like Parks and Recreation or Office. I enjoy both those shows. I've probably watched both of them at least 3 times. Haven't watched them in a while though. Oh, did any parts of my books go over satellite play? Yes. Where's the book? Is this the book? Oh, this is the book. I have my special copy signed by all the authors, or many of the authors. Excelling at No Limit Hold'em. This book has a great chapter by Bernard Lee on satellite strategy. I saw someone ask about heads-up play earlier. Also, Olivier Bousquet, one of the best heads-up players in the world, has content there too. We also just hired Jonathan Jaffe recently, who is also one of the heads-up crushers for pokercoaching.com, so you guys have that content there. So there you go. Well, I go to Encore in Boston. I mean, look, I don't have time just to go to random places. I wish I did. If they have a big poker tournament series there, I may go, but that's it. Do you have reshoving range on our website? Yeah, the GTO charts. So Rick asked this thing that it's like a trigger point for me because it is really like lighting everyone's money on fire. There's this app out there that released reshove ranges. And you have to realize that when someone raises in front of you, your options are not only all in or fold. Your options are all in, re-raise small, call, or fold. Especially call. Call is a very important option. There's an obvious example. Let's say like middle position raises, you're in cutoff. I think you can profitably reshove or fold like 15% of hands. But if you have a flatting range, you can play like 30% of hands. So would you rather play 15% of hands profitably or 30% of hands profitably and make way more money? It's just like so tilting to me that people, first, someone respected in the environment released that app, and it's almost like you must be doing this to screw the people. Because like he knows that that's not the right play. He must. He's a good player, right? And it's frustrating to me to see people who are trying to get good and study and get improve their skills study something that is just lighting their money right on fire. So if you use only reshove or fold charts, you are lighting your money on fire. You're allowed to flat call. 165 people, but only 23 likes. Wow, you all don't like my show very much. If you like the show, click the like button. That way we actually know that you enjoy what we're doing here. Let's see. Did Gabe Kaplan joke at the table? I think I played against Gabe Kaplan in like the NBC Heads Up tournament or something. And I honestly don't remember anything from them. Let's see. Webinars by Michael Acevedo, who wrote Modern Poker Theory, and Matt Affleck have been absolutely fire lately. Good stuff. Good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear that you're enjoying that. I mean, look, I've been trying to hire coaches who I want to learn from. And I mean, if you ever played with Matt Affleck, he is rough to play against at the table. And it's like, he's a nice, unassuming guy, and then he'll just get in there and crush you. And it's like, what just happened here? And that's why I hired him. He was one of the first coaches I hired for poker coaching. I've worked with him on excelling at No Limit Hold'em back there. And he was crushing me. How do you convert M to big blinds? I don't even know. I don't even know how you figure out M because it doesn't matter. You know how many big blinds you have, right? But look, do whatever works for you. There's nothing wrong with thinking in various frameworks as long as that framework is like accurate, right? And you know how to convert it to whatever it is. I personally know how to think in terms of big blinds because that's just like how we learned sit and goes a long time ago is how many big blinds do you have, right? And having to convert from big blinds to M and then it's like back to big blinds, it like doesn't make sense. Like, why am I doing that extra conversion? You never see me frustrated like this. I mean, look, I am out there to try to help the players who are really trying to improve their games get better. And I think most people in the content creation space do want that. But when I see someone putting out information that is just definitively wrong, and the player must know it's definitively wrong, it's like, what's happening here? Are you just trying to make a quick buck? Or are you trying to screw the players? Or do you think this is actually good? It's tough to say. I mean, the problem is that there are a lot of problems. There are a lot of problems in life. I mean, another issue that's kind of rampant is people in the content creation space, or in the poker space, who are good at poker. You know, they're like definitively good at poker. They think they know a lot about everything, or at least things that they kind of know a little bit about. And they start giving life advice on those types of things, right? Like fitness or finance or whatever. You know, like, I mean, cryptocurrency is a good example because a lot of poker players were into that. And, you know, they probably know more than the average person. But there was a popular YouTuber out there who told people to put half their money into crypto at the peak. And so that person's followers did. Because, hey, why not? They teach me to play poker well. Why wouldn't they teach me to invest my money well? But realize, just because you're good at one thing doesn't mean you're good at the other thing. And then whoever listened to that person lost a lot of their money. And then I hear the emails from them saying, oh man, I listened to this guy and he said to put my money in crypto. I've been crushing poker, but I lost all my money in crypto. It's like, well, yeah. You put your money in a very highly volatile asset. And the nice thing is that whenever that person fails, they're like, oh yeah, I got unlucky. But if they succeed, like, haha, look how I made everyone so much money. I'm so good. And that's the problem is they're not honest about their setbacks and their losses and whatnot. And it's tough. It's a tough thing. Or they just like disappear for 3 months and then come back and hopefully people forgot. Anyway, you all get me on a tangent. I just want to help all of you improve your life. And I realize that I am good at teaching people to play poker. And I am good at teaching people to think and make good decisions for themselves. And the problem is that when people start listening to one person specifically, they inevitably think that maybe they think that person knows everything, but they don't. I mean, I realize I don't know much. I know how to play poker pretty well. That's about it. So, I realize what I don't know, and I think that's a very, very important skill that you must master. That's why you're quitting sports betting. Yeah. Wise words from today. I mean, I do my best, right? Just have to be honest with everyone and not try. I mean, I think a lot of people have insecurity complexes. I mean, you all may not know this, but I did not make content for a long time. I was sort of like dragged into it because my friends, a long time ago, told me I was really good at playing poker and discussing poker. And so I started doing it. And I think a lot of people instead get into making content because they want to feel important or something like that. But I don't care about feeling important. If you all know me, I'm a quiet person. I don't talk to a whole lot of people in general. I mean, I will. I'm happy to. Don't get me wrong. But I'm not out here seeking attention, right? And you see people on YouTube turning on ads and trying to make tons of money from all of you. Like, I have no ads on YouTube because I don't want money that way, right? I want to get paid because I actively help you improve your skills. And making half a cent off of you because you watch an ad is not what I'm trying to accomplish. All right. Let's see. When people open raise pre-flop, they call it a 2-bet. Isn't it a 3-bet? No, small blind is not the first bet. Small blind is... The big blind is considered the first bet. Don't forget I know how to play Magic. Yeah, I know how to play Magic too, but don't have time for that. I'm pretty good at Magic the Gathering. Could I make content on Magic the Gathering? This is a good example of this, right? Like, I am like definitely in the top 1% of Magic the Gathering players in the world, but there are Magic the Gathering content creators out there who are like top 100 players in the world. And why am I trying to get into that? Why would I try to get into that market when there are people out there who actually are, they seem like good humans who are making good high-level content? Like, I just don't need to do that. I'm not adding anything, right? The neat thing about the internet is it lets anyone do whatever they want. And a lot of people think that that is a justification to, well, do whatever they want. But in reality, you want to make sure you are helping people. And if, like, someone's better at me at something, then I'm going to send you there, right? Like, whenever people ask me for PLO tips, they're like, oh, can you write a book on PLO? I'm like, no. But I got enough requests, so you know what I did? I went out and got the PLO expert, Jay Nandez, to write a book on PLO. Because, I mean, I realize some people like me, but at the same time, I'm not the PLO expert. I get that. I know that. And so, don't make it yourself, Jonathan, just because you could. I'm definitely in the top 1% of PLO players in the world, too, but I'm not in the top 100. And I want to give you the best high-level content. All right, Mark says, you're feeling good about your homework answer today. Good. Check out pokercoaching.com, sign up. There's still time to do your homework. My no ad choice on YouTube is appreciated. Well, good. I'm not trying to show you ads on random nonsense. What are my feelings on DTO Poker Training app? It's a good way to practice specifically GTO, but unfortunately, there are payout implications in poker, and also it doesn't tell you why you're doing what you do. All right. Let's see. We have to pack it up soon. I have a call. I'm going to be an MC at a charity tournament coming up in a few months. I have to call them and talk to them about the charity tournament, so that'll be fun. You play Magic when you need a break. I used to play Magic when I needed a break. When I was playing poker all day, every day, I would use things like Magic as a break, especially when things were kind of going poorly, just to like take my brain off of it. Are the 30-day challenge winners random or statistic? I'm not really sure the difference between those two. I imagine whoever is available, whoever completed the challenges, they are then chosen randomly from those people. Give me some tips on Big O. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people out there, if they were sitting in this chair right now and people asked for tips on Big O, they'd give tips on Big O. My tip on Big O is I've never played the game in my life. So, there you go. How long before the solvers can factor in ICM implications? They can already, as far as I know. I think they can. Actually, I know they can. One of the chapters in excelling at tough no limit hold'em games is purely on ICM, and it's made using Bunker Solver with ICM implied with a standard tournament payout. So I already know it can. That said, like the DTO app does not have that built in at the moment, right? And also, it's really hard to make an app for that because then you just have to schedule in like all sorts of various scenarios, and it just takes forever. It's a difficult thing. Random winners or best scores? I'm not entirely sure. Email support@pokercoaching.com. Been playing more aggressively in a tournament, and you're currently first with 5 left. Nice, congrats, good luck. Lauren says, good morning. Well, unfortunately for you, I have to leave soon. Big O, what's Big O? It's a poker game. There are lots of random poker games. It's actually funny because in various places, they play various games. Like in Nottingham, they play 6-card PLO. Whenever I was in a PLO tournament, actually, and someone sat down, I think he was serious. He said, is this 4-card, 5-card, or 6-card? They're like, oh, it's 4-card. And he's like, oh, man, I like 6-card. And that's just how some people play, right? My favorite poker game, if you all have a home game and you want to test it out. I made it up a long time ago when we used to play mixed games. We called it Trash, but I don't know if it's actually maybe it's a real game, I don't know. Basically, PLO, Pot Limit Omaha, you get dealt 5 cards, okay? Get 5 cards. Pre-flop, there's betting, like normal. Then, everyone discards a card, okay? So now we're down to 4-card PLO, just like normal. Those cards that are discarded all become the flop to turn in the river, okay? So if it's 5-handed game, you know your card's coming, whatever you discard. If it's a 9-handed game, some of those cards don't come. But that's nice because sometimes you know definitively that your card's coming and you're just like blasting the pot. Other times, you like know your cards may be coming. If your card does come, you win a gigantic pot, and if it doesn't, you don't. And sometimes your card comes and you still end up losing. So it's a lot of fun. I like that game. Do you think you're a gambling addict if you can't stop playing poker and always feel crappy when you're not in the action? Yes, probably. The title caught you because you tend to grind out a stack and most of the time you end up busting. Yeah, well, sorry you're a little bit late, but we already went through this. Essentially, you need to make sure you are in there playing pots and building pots, not just knitting it up and not really making a point to try to collect a min cash. Because if you frequently collect min caches, you usually do that with a shallowish stack. And if you're doing that with a shallowish stack, then you're just going to have a really difficult time to win. And look, I want all of you to win. I mean, I wrote this very early in my first poker book 10 years ago. Like if you sit there and play weak, tight poker, or tight aggressive poker as they call it, if you play weak, tight poker, you are going to blind out. And if you blind out, you just don't win all that often. Sure, sometimes you will get lucky. Sometimes you will sneak into the money and then run it up. That happens. You will win sometimes. Don't get me wrong, you will win sometimes. But you'll win way, 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 way less often. When I play poker with my wife and her friends, do we crush them or take it easy? Take it easy. How's 11 a.m. for cash games? Never been this early on your way to Mohegan. I mean, I don't know. You're probably going to go there. There's going to be one game running. Good luck. All right. Well, I have a call now to discuss being the MC of a charity tournament, and I should get in the right headspace for that. Believe it or not, whenever you talk a lot and stream on Twitch and all of that, you need like a minute to decompress. At least I do. It's fun. Yesterday I was recording a video over my play in some fast forward games on Party Poker. I recorded it while I was in Nottingham and then I was reviewing it. And after like 2 hours of that, I'm like, oh my gosh, my head's wiped. Talking for 2 hours, analyzing poker, analyzing these spots for my cash game masterclass, something we're adding to it. It's a lot. So that was fun. Anyway, I hope you all have a great day. I wish you all nothing but the best. If you are playing poker tournaments, I would tell you to get in there and battle a little bit harder. Don't be dumb. Don't give your stack away. Don't run insane bluffs. Bluff when it makes sense. A lot of people just don't. They chicken out. Be a little bit more aggressive pre-flop. Play more pots pre-flop. And just get involved. And yeah, you're not going to cash as often, but you're going to win more often. And you're going to find that when you start winning, getting a min cash doesn't even feel all that nice whenever you win sometimes. Let's see. You make $200K a year from your job, but you love poker. What should you do? Well, you should work your job and then play poker some. You're going to find that whenever you play poker a lot, you stop liking it so much. Just like everything else in the world. Whenever you do anything a ton, you stop liking it so much. So if you have a good job, stick with your good job and then play for fun. Actually, one of my wife's friends, who knew me before I met my wife, actually, independently, he's a lawyer, made like $400K a year or something in New York City, and then he would go home and he would play Super High Stakes PLO, and he would make like $300K a year doing that, playing like 2 hours a day for fun. And he would never quit his job because the job is sick. He's smart, right? And inevitably the PLO games died online, and now he still has a good job. So be smart about that. As Rhino says, good luck in your games. Be kind to someone. Be nice. Help other people improve their lives. And that can be simple as opening the door for someone or picking up something off the ground or just being good to someone. Do we still have the poker coaching webinar today? Yeah, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Between now and then, I'm going to be grinding hard for all of you. Good luck in your games. Have fun. And I will see you all again. Well, if you're a poker coaching member, I'll see you again in a few hours. If you are not a poker coaching member, I guess I will see you again on Monday. Have fun. Good luck. And I'll talk to you then.